So at the end of the last video, I went over this definition about how if it's P over Q, then there's two ways you can break each one of those up, whether it's positive P over Q or negative P over Q. And maybe thinking, well, this all is starting to look familiar. Yeah, okay. So at the beginning part, I was talking about 1 over n. See? So b to the 1 over n. So if you look at every power here, it's 1 over 2, 1 over 3, 1 over 4, and then negative 1 over 2, negative 1 over 3, negative, right? And now I'm doing, or I'm about to do 3 over 2 and 5 over 3. So I did these ones 3 over 2 and negative 2/3 here. All right, so let's do some more. So we have 25 to the 3 halves. So let's make that, let's see, 25 to the 3 over 2. Now you can choose how you want to do this. Personally, I think it's easier to do the second one. That's the one where you go 25 to the 1/2 first and then do the 3. Okay, so that would be 25 to the half. That's the square root of 25. And the square root of 25 is 5. So you're going to take 5 to the 3rd power, which is 125. Now I did quite a bit of math in my head on that one, so let me make sure everybody's okay with that. So here, let me bring it up. So I went from 25 to the half, and then you don't have to write the square root part if you don't want to. So you can just do 25 to the half. And if you don't know what it is off the top of your head, you can say, okay, I want 25 to the parentheses 1/2. And again, new calculators don't need to. Oops. See, I didn't do the caret. I did a division symbol accidentally. Let me go back in here. Caret. It's not going to like me. To the 1/2. I got rid of the parentheses on that because I was getting annoyed. And I pressed enter. There we go. It's 5. Or you could do second square root 25. Same thing. And then you'd want to take 5 to the 3rd power, and it's 125. Just like I said it was. It's like I'm a math teacher or something. All right, let's do some more. All right, so, and again, I won't always, but I do find of these two, the back one is usually more useful. The one where you make it smaller first. Take the 1 over q power first. So let's do this one. It's 8 to the, oh, if I could remember to do this right. There we go. 5 over 3. Having issues typing. All right, this is 8 to the 1/3 all to the 5th. Okay, but 8 to the 1/3, hopefully everybody knows at this point, but let me just, I'll do it out. It's really the 3rd root of 8 to the 5th, and that's really 2 to the 5th. Oops, sorry. And that's 32. Again, you can skip over the square root part if you don't want to. You don't have to type out a square root. You just should know what 8 to the 1/3 close parentheses is. Or again, if you want to do it the other way, clear. Math, number 4, 8, enter. Okay? And then you just raise it to the 5th power and you got 32. All right, let's do some more. Now this one we'll have to be a little bit careful of because there's a negative in there. So we'll have to be careful when we break it up. So you can say, okay, that's negative 27 to the 1/3, and I'm going to raise the whole thing to the 4th. Okay, so negative 27 to the 1/3, that would be, let's see, negative 3. Now, I kept it in parentheses because all of it's to the 1/3 power. If you make it so that there's no parentheses in there, you're losing the negative part. So I kept it in there. And, oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping a step. I apologize. So I do this without even thinking. Okay, so it's really 27 to the 1/3. If you want to think of it that way, that's really negative 27 underneath the 3rd root. You're taking the 3rd root of negative 27, which is negative 3 to the 4th power. And that would be positive 81. Now it turned out positive because you took a negative number but raised it to an even power. All right, what about letter D? Okay, so we've got Seems very similar to the last one. I want to leave the last one up so you can kind of, oh, I can't do it. All right, well, that's all right. It's very similar to the last one. Okay, so it's, let's see, double parentheses, negative 81, because I want all of that raised to the 1/4 power. Uh-oh. We're in trouble. Because I'm trying to raise a negative number. Let's think about what that would mean for a second. It means that you're trying to take the negative 81 and take the 4th root of it. But we already learned way back here that it's the third bullet here. If n is even, like 4, and b is negative, like negative 81, then it is not a real number. Matter of fact, we did that same problem right here. Right? It's not going to work. So for ours, right, we can say this part in here is not going to work. So we can say no real solution. Done. Okay, what about letter E? Okay, letter E is not going to give us that grief because, well, here, 9 to the negative 3 over 2. Oops, sorry, you guys probably like negative in front, 3 over 2. That's fine. But remember, any negative power really means it's 1 over 9 to the 3/2. You lose that negative power right there. Goes bye-bye, right? And you leave it just positive 3/2. Okay, so then this is 1 over, you want to take 9 to the 1/2 to the 3. That's equal to 1 over, now what is 9 to the half? Hopefully you know it's 3, but if you don't, you could find it with your calculator. 9 to the 1/2. Again, you'd need parentheses, old school. There you go, it's 3. Or, you could also say to yourself, well, that's the square root, 1 over square root of 9 to the 3rd. Right? And again, remember the little 2 we don't write for little 2's for square roots. And so then that's 1 over 27 because 3 to the 3rd is 27. We've seen that one a bajillion times. Yeah, bajillion. I say bajillion. I know what you're thinking. Alana, you can't be a bajillion. All right. So let's see. This is negative 32 to the negative 2 over 5. Okay, so the negative on that power right there, that negative in front of that power is going to make it 1 over everything else. The negative, the 32, all the rest of the stuff goes down. But the negative that was in front of that 2/5 is gone. All right, this is equal to 1 over, and then you're going to take negative 32, but you've got to take all of it. All of negative 32 to the 1/5 power, and then you're going to raise it to the 2. In theory, seems okay. Okay, so this is equal to 1 over, now what in the world is negative 32 to the 1/5? Well, hopefully you know off the top of your head that it's negative 2. But if you don't, that's okay. But keep in mind you need parentheses on this one. Negative 32, close parentheses, to the parentheses 1/5. Or you could do 5th root, math, number 5, 5th root of negative 32, because that's also what it is. In fact, I'll write that one. So let's see, negative 32 to the 5th, and then to the 2 power. So you're going to be raising negative 2 to the 2 power, which is 1 over 4, because negative 2 times negative 2 makes positive 4, because it's an even power. Cool. All right, let's move on. So we've practiced fractions when the numerator is not 1. That's what this whole thing was. Fractions when the numerator is not 1. That's what all this was too. And then we also did fractions where the numerator is negative and 1. And then we did fractions where the numerator is positive and 1. So we've practiced, practiced, practiced. You're responsible, unfortunately for you, for all of them. All right, so let's see here. We've got f of x is equal to, what was it, 2 times 81 to the x, like that. 2 times 81 to the x. And I want f of 3 over 4. So I want 2 times 81 to the, instead of x, because remember this is function notation, when you see that number in parentheses, that's your x. So you're going to put it in for x. And now you just have to simplify it. So you got to use those skills that we just did on this page. So you say, okay, that's 2, and then 81 to the 3/4. 81 to the 3/4. We'll start with, you want 81 to the 1/4, right? Break it up into 2 pieces. You want the 1/4, and then you want the 3 outside. So that's 2 times, now 81 to the 1/4, that's the 4th root of 81. And you want to raise that to the 3rd power. I'm going to put this down here. And again, you don't have to write the root part. You can just do the fraction power part if you want. I like putting both in so you guys can see them, because sometimes students are more familiar with the roots than they are with the fraction powers. All right, so the 4th root of 81 is 3. And again, if you don't believe me, 4th root of 81. 81 to the 1/4. See, it's 3. All right, so this is 2 times 27, which is 54. And again, I'm doing that math in my head, but you can use your calculator to help you. Now let's look at B. Same idea. Oopsie. So I'm going to copy and paste a little bit here. All right, but it's negative 1/4, right? Negative 1. Okay, so that'd be negative 1 up here. I'm going to erase all the rest of this. Okay, so that's trickier because what's going to happen is the negative power, because that's what this is, it's a negative power. You could actually write it right in front of that fraction if you like. It means that this part right here, the thing that that power is for, which is the 81, has to go to the denominator. So you've got to put 81 to the positive 1/4, because once you move it, no more negative power. And in the numerator, you still have the 2, because the 2 is not affected by this negative power. The negative power only works on what's inside that parentheses. So it's 2 in the numerator. This is equal to 2 over, and we just saw this before, that's 3. 81 to the 1/4 is 3. So there you go. And it worked out because 81 was positive. Remember up here, we had one right here, letter D, where 81 was negative, and that didn't work, right? Because even denominator of 4, negative power inside, no good. But down here, it's the negative power, that's okay. You can do that, it just makes a fraction. And then the 81 to the 1/4 worked out beautifully. And it occurs to me that I actually have the space here to do more vertical. And honestly, that's the way we kind of prefer problems to be done in math class anyway. So I'm going to do it this way. Right? I mean, we prefer for you guys to work vertically as you go. All right. I'll meet you back here for the next page, which goes over again the properties of exponents. See you then.